it's only when we expect something other than what the person is that we are disappointed. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're finally talking about the Gemini Labyrinth. If you are dating a Gemini man who has a Gemini sun, Gemini moon, Gemini rising, or Venus, maybe even Mars, if Mars is his chart ruler, this video is going to interest you. We're going to be talking about what makes Gemini men so perplexing, enticing, ultimately what makes us love them, and then at the end of the day, hate them. Because remember that Gemini and Scorpio are probably tied for the most hated zodiac signs in astrology. It's a close tie between them, except for the fact that, Gemini neither of them care, honestly. Scorpios don't care if people hate them. They are probably proud of it, and Geminis probably just think it's funny. We're gonna try to get to the bottom of this Gemini labyrinth as close as we can, get to the end of that labyrinth. It's quite impossible, but we're gonna try our best here. So first we're gonna look at the operating system. We're gonna sort of like pop the hood and see what's going on beneath the surface. What are Geminis made of? So the most important thing when considering a sign is to look at the ruling planet and their mode and element. So their element is air, and they are a mutable air sign ruled by Mercury. So Mercury, air, there's a whole lot of intellectual mind stuff going on when we're talking about Gemini. So the mutable quality of them is what makes them so adaptable, what makes them able to shift, at a moment's notice, what makes them intellectually very dexterous. Like they can just go wherever their mind requires that they go at any given moment. Whatever thing comes up into the environment, the intellectual environment, they're going to be able to shift depending on the situation. This is what makes them like excellent communicators and just like beautiful debaters. If you've never watched Jordan Peterson debate people, you really should. He's a Gemini king, and I watch him in awe. They are also an air sign. Air is really concerned with ideas, intellect, and connecting through ideas and this intellect. So this is why air people, they love so much to talk to others, because do not forget that at the base level, air requires other people to sort of feed itself back and forth. So this is why air people love to socialize. They are ruled by Mercury. And remember that Mercury is the planet of intellect, communication. It is the planet of commerce and movement. Mercury also rules travel, things like that, like buses, cars, all of that. So in your Denise, what does that have to do with Gemini? It does. It all has to do with Gemini, because I just want you to get this image of Gemini being a sign that is very hyper mobile. So I always like to come up with an image of the signs. And for Gemini, I always think of butterflies, because think about how beautiful and attractive butterflies are, but how they can just like sort of fly in and cheer us up because they are so bright. They are so unexpected. Imagine like a gray, boring day and a butterfly just flies by. It's sort of like, it's nice. It cheers you up. And that is what Gemini men can do for you. They are endlessly curious. They are chatty. They are funny and playful and lighthearted. So remember this. Remember that these are the things that matter to them. So it's only when we expect something other than what the person is that we are disappointed. So make sure that you remember this. They are chaotic butterflies who love laughter and lightness. That is their purpose in the world. Remember, you have to look at the rest of the chart. So don't just get this one view of how your Gemini is going to be. Remember that Gemini is just one part of the chart. No one is just everything in Gemini. We all have planets. So in order to consider the rest of the chart, in order to get a more complete picture of who this person is, you want to get preferably a professional chart reading. I have a website, but at the very least, go get a free chart that you can generate and see the rest of his signs. All you need is his birthday and his time of birth, place of birth, and you could see a more complete picture. No one is just a pure Gemini. So this is what Gemini men want you to do. They want you to, first of all, laugh, have a good time, but also they want to push the boundaries of your mind to what you ever thought was possible and what you ever thought was right. Because Gemini is not very much in love with the idea of this is right, this is the way we do things. Gemini wants to always consider the endless possibilities, and that is really what he wants you to do. with him. That's what he wants to invite you on, to push those boundaries of everything that you thought was right and everything that you thought was true. So why are they so perplexing? First of all, Geminis often, they speak in riddles. And this is because their mind is sort of like a corridor of mazes. And when you are interacting with them, remember that you're interacting with Mercury. So their Mercury is, involved with their Gemini energy. So you're communicating with their mind. Obviously, when we talk to anyone, we're communicating with their mind. But the mind of a Gemini is very active and it has all these corridors. So when you are exchanging with them, you are sort of walking through those corridors and they're inviting you on this. And sometimes this could be a little bit perplexing. It could be a little bit like a riddle, but that is because that is the way that they're thinking in that moment. That is the riddle that they're exploring. And it's just that, they're here, they're playing with it. It's kind of like, for them, like thoughts is like playing with a ball, right? And then a kid comes along and they're just like, hey, do you want to play with this too? And they'll like toss it to you. And it's up to you whether you want to toss it back and forth and you want to examine an idea and look at it. And you could see it unraveling. They want to unravel things. And they always are willing to invite, a willing participant or an unwilling participant into that maze to try to figure out whatever riddle it is that they're chewing on or playing with at any given moment. They always like to share their riddles with other people because they really feel like this is the best way to have fun. And this is how we can get the most juice out of an idea when we include somebody else, because somebody else is always going to impart, their own opinions, their own beliefs. And then we have more to chew on, more to play with. And remember, the whole purpose of Gemini is to play with intellectual things, to play with ideas, to play with thoughts, concepts, and belief. You always have to remember that the death of a Gemini is boredom. They absolutely cannot stand boredom and stagnation. Their mind is super active. So in order to remain, engaged, in order to remain into something, they have to constantly be stimulated by new things because they are surveying everything at the same time. And so they could get bored. If they've already seen everything, they're going to be like, okay, I've seen everything in this room. Can we go into another room? So if you want to be with a Gemini man, you have to be willing to go into the next room with them, go into the next phase, go into the next corridor in their mind, because this is just the way that they're going to be going from thing to thing, from corridor to corridor, and you just have to be, willing to go along for the ride. They always will value novelty, so sometimes they will say things just for the sake of novelty. They'll just say something just outrageous or outlandish just for the sake of saying something fun and seeing what happens. What can happen if I were to say this outrageous thing? Geminis are expert trolls because of this. They don't say things very seriously unless you're like telling them like, are you being serious? Then of course everyone can be serious when needed. But seriousness is not their priority. One of the core things and core truths that we have to remember is that more than anything, they're going to value fun. And if things are getting too stagnant and boring, Gemini is going to do something that is going to, brighten up the mood, really wake everybody up. If everybody's sort of like in gray fog, Gemini is going to come and say something totally rude, totally obnoxious, totally trolly. That's why they're the expert trolls, because they don't really care about what is true, what is right. They just care about what's fun and pushing your boundaries at all times. So sometimes they're going to say things that are going to push your boundaries and going to piss you off. So what makes them infuriating? And I really have only two things that can make Geminis infuriating. The first thing is going to be a personal thing. Your expectations are going to make Gemini infuriating. If you don't know the person, if you don't see the rest of the chart and you don't really, Gemini is one of those things that you really have to look at the rest of the chart, because no one's just a troll. No, I mean, some people are, but no one's just a troll, right? So you see this playful side of him, and if you have this expectation that you've created about who he is, if you want him to be this other way, and he's showed you, maybe he can be that way. But Gemini, remember, they like to shift. So if for that moment they've shifted into being something that you wanted them to be, and then later on you're pissed off because you're like, hey, I thought you were always going to be this way. Gemini's going to be like, hold on, honey. Like, what? Like, I never said that I was going to be this way forever. You have to be open in terms of what it is that you expect for them, and observe the things that they do, not the things that they say. Because remember that for them, communication, all of that is just an experiment. It's kind of like when they're talking to you, it's kind of like a thought experiment. But it's essentially when you're taking somebody on an intellectual ride just to see what happens. That is what Gemini does. They take you on this intellectual ride just to see what happens. And if in that ride you got an idea of them that isn't true, then really, I mean, it's kind of on you for not knowing that this is how Gemini operates. This is why I think people should learn astrology, so that you can know what to expect from people. So this is not saying that Geminis are liars or that they are untruthful, but if you ask them a direct question and you really want an answer for them, they'll give it to you. But other than you directly asking them what they think about something, about your relationship, etc., any other thing that they talk about, they're just sort of, you should consider them as thought experiments. And then you won't be disappointed, because you're gonna know that this is just sort of how Geminis are. The other thing that can make them quite infuriating is that they change their minds. They change their minds because they need a lot of intellectual freedom. They need the ability to go wherever their mind takes them. And if you are sort of like, hey, but you said this one thing, and they're just like, well, yeah, I know, but like, do I contradict myself? Very well, I contradict myself. I am vast. I contain multitudes. That is the ultimate Gemini thing. They are not just one thing, and you cannot try to put them in a box because they're just gonna like seep out. They're never going to be placed in a box. So if you try to do that, then you are going to be disappointed. And that is not on them, that is on you, because you had no understanding of them in the first place. So get yourself some astrological knowledge so that you can, know them better and not be disappointed. So why do we love and hate them? Lastly, I just want to close off with this one quote. I saw two versions of it, and the one that I love the most is Panic at the Disco. There's this song that says, lying is the most fun that you could have with your clothes on. There's another one that says, advertising is the most fun you could have with your clothes on. And Gemini rules advertisement, in case you didn't know that, advertising. So what does that mean? Lying is the most fun you could have with, obviously, the most fun you could have is, taking your clothes off. Obviously, Scorpio, yes, that is very fun. But aside from that, Gemini is just like, you can have so much fun just by taking these thought experiments with other people, just by pushing your mind to areas that it's never been. If you've actually done that with a Gemini, it can be hours upon hours of fun. You will never run out of things to talk about. You will never run out of ideas to explore. It costs you nothing. It is fun for free. I know that that Sagittarius guys are also really fun. They want to take you on trips, but Sagittarius physically wants to take you somewhere. Gemini is just like, girl, we ain't gotta go nowhere. Let's have a conversation. Have a conversation with them, and they are going to just go a little bit into that maze, and you're just gonna be fascinated at the things that go through their mind and the things. So the thing to take away here is that Geminis are complex, that they are very mobile, they are intellectual little wizards, geniuses, they are always shape-shifting. And that the thing that is going to disappoint you the most about a Gemini man is going to be your expectations. If you don't know who he really is, and you just get an idea of who he is based on the things that he says, you're not really going to get down to the truth of the matter. Because remember, Geminis are always talking. So pay attention to the things that they're doing rather than the things that they're saying. Because remember that the things that they say are often as loose as thought experiments can be. And the whole purpose of a thought experiment is just to take your intellect down an avenue just for the sake of it, just for exploration. So remember that. Pay attention to the things that they do and not just what they say. But obviously, at the end of the day, if you love your Gemini men, they are the most fun. They are the most fun. They are the funniest. I love Geminis. The first guy I ever liked was a Gemini. He told me a really funny joke when we were in kindergarten, but that's not the point. But if you want to know a little bit more and you would like a chart reading, go to my website, www.budoastrology.com. I offer personal readings as well as relationship readings. And I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure you give me a thumbs up. This is as best as I could do. Geminis are pretty perplexing people. They are very misunderstood. So I did the best that I could with what I had. I'll see you in the next video.